Microplastics in commercial sea salt in Sri Lankan market. Microplastics are plastic particles less than 5 mm in size. There are two types based on the origin as primary microplastics and secondary microplastics. They are mainly originates inland and mostly ends up in the ocean. As a result, about 94% of table salt all over the world are contaminated with microplastics. Therefore, the objectives of this research were to examine the level of microplastic contamination of food-grade sea salt available in Sri Lankan market, to study the variance of microplastics in salt from Puttalam and Hambantota salters, and to determine the difference of microplastics in table and crystal salt. Methods. Salt samples were dissolved in distilled water and the suspension was filtered through a 0.1 mm mesh. The residues were collected and subjected to wet peroxide oxidation using 30% hydrogen peroxide and ferrous sulfate. Next, density separation was done using sodium chloride. Then the microplastics were extracted onto a 0.45 micrometer pore size membrane filter and enumerated under a dissecting microscope. FTIR spectroscopy was used to identify the polymer types. Generalized linear model with a negative binomial distribution was used to determine whether the concentration of microplastics per kilogram of salt varied by site of the solvent and type of salt. Results. All the samples were contaminated with microplastics. Figure 1 illustrates the average number of microplastics in salt brands. Microplastics were predominantly present in the forms of microfibers, followed by microparticles and microfilms. According to the FTIR analysis, polyethylene, high-density polyethylene, and resin dispersion were commonly detected polymer types. According to the statistical analysis, there was no significant difference in the concentration of microplastics by salt and site, whether Puttalam or Hambantota, or by type of salt, whether table or crystal salt. Conclusion. All the commercial salt products available in the market had a high level of microplastics. An understanding of health risk associated with microplastic contaminated salt consumption needs to be addressed. Moreover, this study provides the first empirical evidence of presence of microplastic in salt products used for human consumption in Sri Lanka. Thank you.